Enotria, The Last Song, is yet another Souls-like full of some generally great ideas that never quite come to fruition. The premise is intriguing. The world has become a never-ending play, its inhabitants forced to wear different masks that transform them into various roles. You are a maskless, a mannequin with the freedom to alter the player as you see fit, swapping between masks at will to deal with different situations. This leads to a fun game mechanic where you can set up 3 different loadouts and flip between them at the press of a button. Getting smacked around by a massive sword-wielding enemy? Switch to a range build and punish him from afar with magic. Need to quickly fill a posture bar? Pick a loadout with a colossal greatsword and go to town. Masks can further be combined with aspects that allow you to increase some of your stats by lowering others, so you can really fine-tune a loadout to fit a specific style. New masks and aspects can be obtained either by defeating one of the many same enemy types, or by vanquishing Enotria's slew of bosses and mini-bosses. It was particularly satisfying to rip a boss to shreds, then take his mask from him, especially as wearing it copies their entire appearance. The bosses themselves are a bit of a mixed bag. There's the obligatory beast that charges at you, enemy that needs to be parried, magic user, on-sign and smoke stand-in, and of course, oversized colossus that needs to be hit in the ankles 100 times. I would have loved for the developers to take some risks here. The mask changing mechanic, for example, would have been the perfect opportunity to create a boss that changed masks and movesets mid-fight. One thing I will give the game credit for are the absolutely gorgeous environments. Gone are the poisonous swamps and dreary caverns that plague most Souls-like games. From the opening moments, when you step outside into a field of sunflowers, it's clear Enotria is attempting to do something different. And things only get better from there. You'll be traversing sun-drenched, multi-hued villages, walking along pristine white cliffs that jut out over a turquoise sea, and creeping through purple and red forests, full of blooming flowers and tortuous roots. My favourite area was a moonlit facsimile of Venice, complete with gondolas and arched bridges that led me from its narrow alleyways all the way to the top of its observatory. The level design is excellent also. There are a myriad of different routes to take, both horizontally and vertically. Enotria is rather rare Souls-like for the jump button, and I often found myself having to choose between 3 or 4 possible directions. Some of these led to dead ends, but more often than not I was rewarded with an optional mini-boss, rare treasure, or even an entire new area. The shortcuts are equally well implemented, and I was never so far away from a thread, Enotria's version of a bonfire, that the runback became annoying. It's probably worth mentioning that every major boss has a thread just outside its area too, so runbacks there are non-existent. I think that where Enotria fails is that it tries to cram in too many systems for its own good, and the worst of these is its elemental system. There are 4 different elements with confusing names like Batsuo and Vis, with a rock, paper, scissors aspect to them. So Malano is strong against Gracia but weak against Vis, for example. Additionally, each element inflicts one of 4 status effects on enemies: Dizzy, Wicked, Radiant and Sick. These effects confer both positive and negative status. So Dizzy increases damage and stamina regeneration at the cost of lowered defenses. Oh, and both you and your enemies can apply these effects. Confused yet? Now imagine having all that information dumped on you within the first 5 minutes, on top of all the tutorials about masks and loadout switching. It's a lot. I found it to be quite inconsistent too, because most weapons do physical damage as well as elemental damage. So thwacking a Gracia boss with a Vis weapon might not actually do as much damage as using a Malino weapon, because despite it not being the right element, the physical damage is actually stronger. After a few hours into the game, I admit I more or less abandoned this system altogether and built my loadouts between a strong physical weapon and a wicked inflicting weapon, wicked being the equivalent of lifesteal here. These carried me through the rest of the game, including beating both the final boss and the secret final boss on my first try. The final thing holding Enotria back from greatness are the dozens of bugs and jank I have unfortunately come to expect from AA Souls-likes. I was playing on the most recent version, and despite many of the early egregious issues having been fixed, I experienced no frame drops, stuttering or screen tearing for example. There was still lots of frustration due to clipping through pillars, getting stuck on the environment, jumping into something, then sliding off into oblivion, getting stun-locked by an enemy, and then sometimes being pushed away from that enemy off a cliff or into a lake. I died far more times to jank than I did to bow or sword. The worst bug I encountered was having an important NPC lock up on me, so I couldn't finish her questline, which, considering there are only 6 NPCs in the entire game, was a big disappointment. Despite these issues, I still believe Souls-like fans should absolutely give Enotria a try, especially if you can get it on sale. This is Jyamma Games' first attempt, and I fully believe things can only get better from here. In fact, they've already announced they're working on a new game based on the Divine Comedy, so we won't have long to wait to see what lessons they have learned. Enotria is a game with great art direction and level design, bogged down by over-complex systems and a few too many bugs for comfort, which is why I'm going to be placing this one in the C tier. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.